Hi everyone, welcome back to Candid Football Conversations, and this is a special episode right after the SAFF Cup final. India ended up winning that game, beating Kuwait on penalties. We finished 1-1 after regular time, went to penalties, and guess what? Gurpreet Singh Sandhu yet again with the heroics pulled off two saves in the shootout and gave India the win. Now, what do you make of the finals?
First of all, I was very happy that I was there. I was able to watch the last couple of matches, and yeah, it was the atmosphere was electric. It was there was a buzz around it. I saw the Indian team train the day before the final, and you could see that there's this a new level of camaraderie in this team. There's a certain understanding. New friendships have been forged, and all of that showed itself. Very good fitness. I mean, the Kuwaitis were all over the place, which to some extent, there was a lot of booing in it, which I didn't like because again. For them also fifth match in a short space of time in Indian conditions is not easy, and I think a lot of people perceive them to be time wasting. But if you see early on directly substitution, later on or another substitution for a player who was on the ground, those were realities. And again, our fitness was brilliant, our mentality was brilliant, and I'm also happy that this was a game where we went behind and came back. That is something which we've not done over the last month. We've always taken a lead, except in that, and except in the draw. Yeah, also even against in the win against Kuwait. Sorry, in the draw against Kuwait in the group stage. So that way, I think it was the way it is or it was, and yeah, I'm very happy that we were able to lift the trophy.
I don't know, before we get into the game and start talking about the game, I was watching the game on TV and it was loud. I could hear every single chant very clearly. And yeah, how was the atmosphere yesterday? Was it different from the previous experience that you had? Was it was it the same? How was it?
It was special. I would say it was fit for the occasion. I would think, in that way, that this was a final, and I think the advantage of the SAFF Cup or the SAFF Championship this year was that for India it started with the match against Pakistan, so there was a certain level of interest in the tournament. India won 4-0, and the interest grew over the tournament. And a big positive was also that you had Kuwait and Lebanon to add quality to this competition. I think that's a big thing. India did not just beat their usual suspects from across South Asia, but they beat teams like Lebanon and Kuwait. And that way, I think we showcased of what we can do against teams which are sort of a similar level, maybe a little better, a little worse than us. And we got finally into a certain groove. That's been my big concern over the last 4 years under Igor Stimac, that I felt that we were not getting sort of a clear-cut picture who are not even my first 11, but maybe my first 15, 16. And that showed itself, and that was very good to see, that this time around, Igor seemed to have sort of a core of 5, 6 players who normally would play regularly, and other players who would come in and fill positions, that we've got options in different positions. So a lot of positives of this extended sort of window here in June and July.
So well, let's get into the game. We were caught on the break. We conceded a goal fairly early on, and then we hit back strong with a beautiful goal of our own. What do you make of the goal? Because it was a beautiful move, and Sunil Chetri's part in that goal, I think for me was the most important. The weight of the pass to Sahal was perfect, and I think a lot of people might overlook it because it wasn't an assist and it was not part of the finish. But what an important part that was.
I mean, that Sunil has a very important role to play in this team. I think everybody knows and everybody understands. I think that's something which is sort of, we don't need to mention it. And I think Sunil is so important um, to our team, and that we yeah, play. The goal was quality, and Changte finishing in the end, which also has helped the boy. I was speaking with him the day before, and match. I spoke to him last night actually after the game as well, and said, Changte, you have to keep up these performances, and you have to get even better. And I was speaking with other people where I say, this talent has been around for 7, 8, 9 years for us to see. And I remember Tete, the secretary of the New Zealand Football Association, introduced me to him in 2016. He had come along for an event with JJ Lalpek Lua. So that's good to see. There's an evolution for certain players who've really evolved over the last 12 months in the Indian Super League. Nikhil Pujari certainly doing a good job against the number 9 from Kuwait. If you see Mehtab Singh, who had come in as a substitute after Anwar got injured. So we have utilized this window in a way. Igor Stimac has utilized this window in a way to sort of find out a bit of a core team, a core group of players, because we've got quite a few players out due to injuries or other reasons who potentially could come back in the coming weeks.
Right. I know I'm probably just going to take this question from Utkarsh a little early on in this podcast, but he asks, what do we make of Iraq? What do we know about Iraq as a team? We're going to be facing them soon. Um, are they in the same bracket as Uzbekistan? Can we beat them?
It's difficult to judge. I think in comparison, Iraq is a typical quality team from the Middle East. I would rather say Uzbekistan and them to compare is difficult, but I would rather say they and Iran most probably. That's most probably the realistic comparison that you can make. And yeah, that's something that we'll have to, if we play Iraq, that's a real test, and the real test also in the next windows in September, October. We'll be playing away. We'll play in Thailand. We'll play in Malaysia. So far, we've played at home. Our track record at home has been good. For quite a number of years. I think in the last few years we drew Bangladesh and we lost to Oman, but otherwise, mainly it was wins for us. So therefore, it's going to be interesting to see how we cope with all of this and how we sort of take on those challenges. But I think the challenge is that the performance level to keep it high, because you will come into those matches in the King's Cup with little to no real practice, because the Durand Cup ends most likely on the 3rd of September, and we're back into a usual football season. So therefore, it'll be interesting to see how the boys cope, because we now know there's been a lot of talk of long camps, and this is the end product. This is the end result of that.
No, and just coming back to our topic of discussion, which was yesterday's game. After that Indian equalizer, there wasn't really much that was happening in the second half. Where did you see the game going? Did you see the game going towards penalties once we hit, say, 60, 70 minutes of the game?
I, for myself, yes, did. I'll be very honest. I felt, and I thought both teams started a little tiring after sort of 70, 75 minutes. Kuwait looked better sort of in the last 10. They had their opportunities, but we had most probably some of the better chances. Sunil in the last second sort of regulation time. First half at a time we were better. Second half again, Kuwait looked better. So you had these highs and lows and sort of evening out. But and then penalties is something where you need to have a good goalkeeper and a little bit of luck, and this is something which he certainly had last night at the Candid.
And he does it yet again. In 2 penalty shootouts in a row, you need him to turn up, and he turns up. Gurpreet, did you see him getting picked before the finals? Because Amrinder was obviously another who could have gone into this game, but it was Is T-Mart stuck with Gurpreet?
It's a difficult question because Gurpreet is someone who has big match experience. He is our most experienced goalkeeper at international level. On the other side, Amrinder has done very well for himself over the last few years, so it's a tough call for the coach. Um, he went in with Gurpreet, and Gurpreet, like in the semis, repaid that fate. And the big man, as I like to call him, yeah, just simply impressed, and have to say congratulations and well done, Gurpreet.
I mean, he's quite huge. I mean, he's lucky he had the opportunity of meeting him, and I clicked a picture with him a long time ago. And whenever I see the picture, he's a way taller, and it's incredible. And we're so lucky to have a goalkeeper of that stature and that height, because when it goes down to penalties and things like that, it's just brilliant because he can get his arm out and save pretty much everything. So yeah, and on the player of the tournament, any doubts at all? Like it was always going to be Sunil Chetri.
If I look at, of course, the number of goals Sunil scored, if I look at how much of ground he covered in his matches, how much he was working for his side, how was he working to get the best out of his teammates, there is no doubt that Sunil is the deserving man of the tournament and highest top scorer as well. And yeah, and it's something which he wanted it. You saw it the day before the final that Sunil wanted to win, and that was really impressive to see the way he was working hard, not only on himself but on the others as well, and trying to be as good as possible in this final.
I don't know, just another question. I'm going to take this one from Surjan. We had better possession and more passes last night. Is it a new benchmark? Are we seeing Stimash apply what he has said so far about possession football?
That we've gotten better with possession is a fact. Were we better on possession? I don't know. Again, I don't know the stats, but my feeling would have been, again, there were phases we were better. There were phases where Kuwait was better. What I felt was the Kuwaitis were more comfortable on the ball. You know, we had these situations, especially when the number 9, number 10 tried to combine. The number 6 was good in defensive midfield to block the game. So from that perspective, I'm not sure if we were really better. I've not seen the stats, to be honest. And but again, we're trying something new. We're trying something different. But also, a lot of the possession is in our third or in the middle of the park. There's not that much of possession in the final third, and you know our players get stuck. Be it Chante, Udanta, when he came on, you know, Mahesh. I think the Kuwait defense also did a very good job. So therefore, it was not easy, and this was really a matchup where I'd say, yeah, and that's the need of the hour. And when Thapa was taken off and Rohit came on, Rohit had his problems, picked up a yellow card, and it wasn't as sort of settled as before.
Yeah. And speaking on Rohit, we were talking about this a little before, and there were challenges flying left, right, center. It was a pretty physical game, and were you surprised that we didn't see a few more cards? I mean, different colors at least.
I felt both sides were lucky, and especially us. If you look at, you know, Sandesh could have been off. I'd spoken to him after the game, and I know that, you know, he thinks the first one was soft. I mean, I do agree with him, but again, if you pick up that yellow, you have to be a little bit more cautious because you know that the referee might sort of give you a card for such an infringement. Ashik was lucky as well, Rohit as well. So we got away with that. And on the other side, the Kuwaitis also with their arguments and other stuff could have picked up a
Yeah.
card here and there. Maybe also a player from their side could have been sent off or someone from the bench. You know, it was a final. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of expectation, and in that way, I think. Yeah, both teams, the match officials, everyone tried their best.
Yeah, I don't know about another question from Utkarsh. He asks when Suresh is back, who do you prefer, Suresh or Thapa? For him, according to him, Jeekson has sealed his position in the squad. Do you think Jeekson has sealed his position in the squad, or and do you think the fight is between Thapa and Suresh?
Um, Two things. I think one, I think no player has sealed his spot in the first 11. The Asian Cup is more than 6 months away. We should not forget that. You have to perform in the national team. You have to perform in the ISL. There are certain injuries. Apuya is injured. I think Apuya, if in form, is our best sort of holding midfielder. So I think
Yeah.
if I've been asked about Thapa or Suresh, I would rather consider of having Apuya there. Suresh, do we need him in the middle of the park? We might need him maybe as a right back. That was also tried by Igor Stima, so there might be a position for him there. But at the moment, I think Jeekson, with the performance level and the maturity that he's showing on the field, is a very, very important factor for us.
Oh, one question from my side. I would have personally gone with Mahesh over Ashik on the left hand side and probably played Ashik as a second striker, sort of, instead of Sahal. I'm again like I feel like I'm not Sahal's biggest fan at the moment, at least. Would you have gone with something like that? Would you have tried to push Mahesh into the squad given how good he's been off late?
It's a difficult question because I feel Igor has been playing around a little bit with those attacking positions, attacking options. Mahesh has shown, certainly in a number of matches over the last month, what he potentially can and could play. That's one. Um, I found it interesting that he stuck with Ashik and with Sahal, playing Ashik wide, Sahal in a more central position as a number 10. And you saw some of the runs, especially in the first half, where Sahal got the ball, dribbled past one, two men. Um, that can be an option, in creating chances. And we have options. That's the good thing. We didn't really utilize, for example, Nanda Kumar. So therefore, that's one position where we are not too bothered. We've got Liston over there. Yasir is not even in the camp, so we've got multiple players who could play there.
Yeah, fair enough. Anama, is it a matter of concern that some of our best players were not at their peak yesterday? Akash Mishra, one of them, or did you think he had an all right game of sorts?
I wouldn't say. I mean, Akash Mishra came in as a sub in the semis, so from that perspective,
Yeah,
you're comparing him before with Subhashish Bose. Akash surely was the better player. I think we've got no doubt about it. But on the other side, yeah, it's a difficult one. It's not every match is the
do you
same.
remember him? I don't remember him doing anything wrong per se.
That's
Probably
what that was.
lost the ball
I
a
was I
couple
was
of
just
times.
considering. I was just thinking in my head, is that did he make any major mistake? Why someone would ask that question? Because I thought Akash was one of our better ones, or has been one of our better players over the last month. So therefore, um, I don't see that much of an issue with what he did.
Yeah, I just remember him losing the ball probably a couple of times when he got forward, but nothing else apart from that.
No, I think again, performance depends on how you are in the match, in the game, right? So again, we lost Anwar early. Sandesh got it relatively early, a yellow card. Mehtab needed a few minutes to get into the game, but once he was in the game, he was really, really good. So therefore, those are factors which one sort of needs to consider and look at.
Yeah. Arnav, if you had to pick out a man of the match from yesterday's game, who would it be and why?
Uh, Either Sandesh or Jixon, actually.
Okay. I mean I honestly I thought about this and I couldn't, I had nobody in my head.
No, actually, no. Sorry, actually, Nikhil Pujari,
Okay.
because he would be
Uh,
our man of the match. I thought the best player on the field was the number 9 from Kuwait. Just forgot the name again. He was to me. Sorry, just getting into the Kuwaiti lineup again. He was for me Muhammad Abdullah. He was the guy that I thought he was their danger man. Put Nikhil Pujari quite a bit under pressure, but I thought he did quite well to recover in most instances because the number 9 combining with the number 10, that was the real danger from Kuwait.
Right, right. Yeah, but I don't know why you think it was Nikhil Puchari. Would you not be tempted to give it to Gurpreet after the penalty shootout?
Um, it's difficult because again, yes, you are the hero of the shootout, and he had a couple of good saves earlier. But if I look at the 120 minutes of how much effort the boys put in, I thought, I thought Pujari was the main boy really, who main player who put his body on the line multiple times, blocked as often as he could, and therefore, yeah, I would go with him.
Another question, Arnava, from fan club. Do you see Ishan Pandita getting into the national team at any point? And if he does, where would he play? This another question.
See, I think Ishan. I was speaking to Ishan after the semi-final. His father introduced me to him. He knew who I was, so we had a conversation. And this boy knows where the goal is. That's the biggest advantage that he has over all other strikers that we would potentially talk about. The only problem is that Ishan has not enough minutes under his belt. I think that's the issue. That's why the decision now in the summer is there any chance of staying at Jamshedpur FC, or is the door closed because it was announced that you're leaving? Does it make sense to go to Mohun Bagan Supergiant? Does it make sense to consider, other teams, Chennai Blasters? He has to decide what is the best step for him and what step makes for him sense to evolve and get more game time. That's the most important for him.
Hope you got your answer there, fan club. Arnava, is there any player from this Indian setup that, according to you, has whose market value has risen as a result of their national performances, and somebody who should be valued higher after their national performances?
Maish Norem. I think I remember when Igor Stimac said in March he was positively surprised by this boy. And if he was surprised positively in March, I think all of us are now positively surprised in June, July. Because I asked him yesterday, I said, were you scared to take the penalty? And he said, no, I just took it. And that is the strength, that he doesn't think or overthink something. He just uses instinct to play football. And we have got very few of those kind of players, really. And it's a different quality that Mesh brings in. I hope he can keep it, can get better, because he could be a great servant for the Indian national football team.
I mean, I know all of this that we're doing, playing these national games. We're looking ahead to the Asia Cup, and that's the big one. And Sujit asks, how much of a role will fatigue play from the ISL when we play the Asia Cup?
It's going to be there. I mean, it's not in India specific issue. It's an even bigger issue for some. Players who are playing in the Premier League and they're coming back because the Premier League has a heavy season around Boxing Day and New Year's. So some players might turn up having played 3 matches in less than a week. So therefore, it's a general problem, and we have to live with it. I think mourning about it doesn't make sense. That's the reality. The ISL is giving up quite a bit of space in September, October to allow them to play in competitions. So therefore, I think that's the challenge I feel that we need to look at is live with the time that you're given by the clubs and try and do something about it.
And again, I don't know, I mean, probably too early for us to start talking about this, but how do you see India faring in the Asia Cup? It's something that Sujit has also asked, but I understand that it's something that we probably should be discussing right now. But
Again, if Seamach remains to to with his ideas and with whatever he's shown over these last 4 years, I would think that the door is still open for a number of other footballers to get into the squad. So that would be the sort of first thing I would say is, if you're doing good over the next 6 months, you've got an opportunity um, to get into the squad and maybe even play. And Yeah, and therefore just um, try and be as prepared as possible for that competition, because you are going to get a little bit more time than last time around in 2019. Last time, I think, if I'm not wrong, you had 6-7 days to prepare. This year, it looks like they'll most probably at least get 14, maybe even 20 days, and that is a good level of preparation. I mean, players like Yunmin Song turn up one day before the game, play, and even win it for their team. So therefore, I think we need to get out of that mentality that we need these extended camps to be prepared for our national competitions, for our international competitions. That's going to be a challenge.
and I don't know again, who according to you slots in to this Indian setup? Somebody who's injured, for example, like Suresh or Rapuya, people who aren't part of the camp. Who according to you has will have to make a good shout for themselves to get back into this Indian side?
I think, again, Apuya has been mentioned. Brandon Fernandez is there. Mohammad Yasir is there. Players who've played in the past. Ishan Pandita, of course, we discussed. So he's also injured. Other strikers, I think, especially strikers, will be interesting if someone does well in the next 6 months. Someone who we might not be thinking about at this moment, but that could be someone interesting to look at in a few months. So therefore, Igor, the way he is, I think every player who's playing at the highest level and puts up a decent show in the next, let's say, 3 months, might still jump onto the bandwagon and be part of the AFC Asian Cup next year.
So it's all club football from now for a while, and there's a lot of build up that we'll obviously be going through transfers and things like that. I know just before we finish up, just to touch upon a couple of transfers. Which is the biggest transfer for you so far this season?
If I look at the package, it has to be Anirudh Thapa. If you look at the whole package, which is a multi-crore thing, and the second would be Akash Mishra to Mumbai City. I think those two are so far the biggest transfers. Could be some more happening if I talk about domestic transfers, but also on the other side, Mohan Bagan signing Sadiku and Jason Cummings. Those are huge names coming into Indian football.
I mean, just because of what Mohun Bagan have done so far, do you see? I mean, I would put Mumbai City as favorites, but now, given what Mohun Bagan's doing, are you saying that these guys are going to give Mumbai a good run?
They could. I think the internal chemistry is going to be the big question with Mohun Bagan. With can they sort out things when one of their so-called star players, star foreigners, is sitting on the bench, or maybe he's not even in the squad. That could be your biggest headache. They've got a lot of potential, but you also have now Havas in the background. So does that put that added pressure on Juan Fernando to perform or to perish, despite having won the ISL a few months ago? So therefore, there's a lot of pressure building in that squad. You're not sure is your captain staying, or are you selling your captain to the Blasters? Is Sahal potentially joining you? So there's a lot of combinations, permutations being played around, and hopefully, yeah, it works out.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to ask you this one last thing before I let you go. I mean, on Sahal, I read somewhere, I think that BFC have also made a bid for him. And is there any truth in the statement? What's the situation around Sahal right now?
Um, I think Sahal is on the market at the moment, so that's the thing. And if you look at Sahal, it's Mohun Bagan Supergiant, it is Mumbai City, and it's BFC, who are potentially, not potentially, they are most probably the only destinations that financially most probably could afford a package for Sahal. The question is, does he want to stay in Kerala? Do the Blasters want to lose Sahal? I think that could be ours as well. because I think the boy needs to take the next step in his career. He's a very, very talented boy, but he needs to make more out of it. He needs to do more with his talent.
All right. Now this is a fairly short session. A quick recap of what happened last night. Our thoughts. We'll come back more for a proper, solid transfer specific and Indian football specific podcast. Probably sometime next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. And yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks so much, Arnav. Thanks for doing this, and we'll be back.
Welcome. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share Sports Kabri and Arun Foot. Good night.
Night.